Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to another live stream by the IELTS Grind. Oh, get myself together. So hopefully everything is live and everyone can hear me. So yeah, okay. And yeah, so today we're going to be talking about one of the task 2 essays. It's an opinion essay, and what I plan to do is to go through a recent example of a question from an exam from this month, and we'll talk about the structure, we'll talk about the ideas that you should include, and if we have enough people in the chat, we will also brainstorm some ideas, and we will try and write this together a little bit in the live stream. So if you are joining us for the first time, my name's Phil, and you can join us in the live chat. You can leave comments if you're watching this on the playback. And here at the IELTS Grind, we're actually going live 6 days a week for the next month at the very least, and you can find the information for that either by going to our website, theieltsgrind.com, and if you come up to live stream schedule up here, you'll come to this page, which will give you the time where we're based, which is Taiwan, so we're in Taipei. And we've put a few clocks there to tell people from different places in the world the difference in time. But you'll go through the list here, so you can see today, the 9th of June, it's me, Phil, and we're doing task 2 and opinion essays. So tomorrow we'll have Michael at 2 p.m. and he'll be looking at a task 2 that a student actually submitted to us, and we're going to correct that for free online, so you can join us there. And don't forget, we've also got other ways that you can contact us. We have a Discord group. If you click this on the website or in the description of any video, you'll get an invite to a free discourse channel where we can chat together. We're trying to build up a community so that you can practice talking with each other. We also have a newsletter, a Facebook group, all these kinds of things. So there's lots of ways to practice for the IELTS with real native tutors. Michael and I, we're here 6 days a week, and we're going to do this all the way until the beginning of July. And if it is popular, we'll do even more. Okay, so on to the topic today, opinion essays. So there are 3 main structures to IELTS essays for task 2. There are 3 different structures you need to learn. There are the discussion essays, where you look at 2 points of view to give your own opinion. There are questions that ask you to answer 2 parts of a question. For example, advantages versus disadvantages. And then there's the opinion essay. Each of these essay structures are slightly different, so you need to learn what they are. So let's look at the example question. So remember, this was something that came up in an exam only a few days ago. So this is a very new question. If you were taking an exam soon, it's possible you would get this question. Not probable, but possible. Okay, so the question is, traditional ideas from older people about the way to live and behave are not helpful to young people and their futures. To what extent do you agree or disagree? Okay, so we know it's an opinion essay because of this part of the question. To what extent do you agree or disagree? They're asking, what do you think? Okay. So our job is to go through and to say what our opinion is about this. So how many things do we need to talk about? Only one. We only need to talk about what we think and give reasons for that. Okay. So let's talk about the structure of the opinion essay. So every essay has three parts: the introduction, the body, the conclusion. Okay. So in very basic terms, this is what you include in an opinion essay. You should write about 2 to 4 sentences in your introduction. Try and keep it as short as possible. The first sentence, you just need to rephrase the question to give the context. This is the part here that talks about traditional ideas from older people. We need to say that again in different words. And the second sentence, we have to give our thesis. Now this is where the opinion essay is very different to any other type of essay, because in the opinion essay only, you actually say what your opinion is. So give your thesis, say your opinion here. You do not do this for discussion essays. You do not do this for 2-part questions. You only do this for the opinion essay. Then the body, you need to write about 2 paragraphs. It's possible to write 3, but normally 2 is all you're going to have time for. And in each paragraph, the basic formula is you write at least one idea, one reason for your opinion, which you go on to explain, expand, and give examples for. It's possible to introduce more than one reason, but as long as you have one reason in each paragraph, you'll be fine. The conclusion, again, you want to write about 2 to 4 sentences. You don't need to keep it, you don't need to make it very long, but you should give your own opinion and why you think that again. So we want to restate the opinion. So always include the phrase "in conclusion." It's a tried and tested phrase, and it shows the examiner that you're talking about the conclusion. Always restate your opinion. You've said what it is in the introduction, and you say it again in the conclusion. You should also touch on the reasons why. So why do you have those opinions? And basically what you're doing is you might refer to the main ideas in the paragraphs, okay? So when I say touch on your ideas, that's what I mean, okay? And something that you can do, it's not necessary, and you won't get a worse grade if you don't do it, but it's quite a nice way to end, is to end on a recommendation or interesting thought. And we'll see the model answer today where I've done an interesting thought. Okay. So don't forget that if you want to find the document that we're looking at here, if I go and have a look, if we go into the video today, it's going live. So you can find the document in the description of the video, which I will put into the chat in case. Follow. Okay, so you can find that in the chat in case there's a problem. Sometimes the stream is a little bit blurry on a mobile, but we have the document for you to follow along with. Okay, so that's the basic structure and the planning part. Okay, so ideally with the planning part, if we had more people in the chat, if people were a little bit more active, we can have a bit of a conversation and we can talk about this. So I will push on, and hopefully later on when people watch this again, they will be able to follow along and find it useful. Okay, so let's look at this. Let's read the question again. So the planning stage is what you do before you start writing in the exam. Okay, you must plan. Planning and proofreading could raise your score. Well, it could stop you dropping in your band score because it helps you avoid mistakes. So traditional ideas from older people about the way to live and behave are not helpful to young people and their futures. To what extent do you agree or disagree? Okay. So what are the main ideas and main topics that we need to talk about? So we've got the big topic and the specific issue. So the big topic is really to keep us on the right track, to have the right context. So what is it? So it's the big topic really is the idea, I would say, it's the connection between older and younger people and traditional ideas. So it's not whether they enjoy the same activities, it's not whether or not they live in the same house. It's to do with the traditional ideas that older people have. And so that's the big topic. And the specific issue, I would say here, is whether or not the traditional values are helpful to their futures. Basically helpful to their lives. Apparently I put the wrong colour. So let's do that. So as long as I introduce the idea that we're talking about the traditional values of older people towards younger people, and as long as I talk about whether or not it helps them in their future, I'm going to be on topic. Now this is important. If we go back to the description and we look for this, which is it's the band score descriptors. Okay, so you can find this and it tells you the 4 marking criteria: task response, coherence and cohesion, lexical resource, grammatical range and accuracy. Now, understanding the right context is good for task response. Okay. So once I've understood what I need to talk about, now I've got to think about the ideas I will talk about. And at this stage, when we're planning, I still don't know if I'm going to agree or disagree. Okay. So when you read this, you, as a person, will automatically choose whether you agree or disagree. But the opinion that you naturally have may not be the opinion that you should write in the exam. You need to choose the opinion you write based on the ideas that you can generate. The better ideas, the easier ideas to write about, that's what determines whether you agree or disagree. And I would always recommend with opinion essays to 100% agree or 100% disagree. Okay. So let's go through this. And if anyone's watching and you want to say hi in the chat, if you want to join in and give your ideas. So we're asking ourselves, what are some reasons for agreeing? Let's get this. So the idea that we agree that the traditional ideas that older people have are not helpful to young people. That would be agreeing. Disagreeing would be saying that no, these ideas are actually helpful to young people and their futures. That's what I mean by agreeing and disagreeing. Okay. So what are some reasons to disagree that traditional ideas, traditional values are not useful to younger people in their future? So I'm going to start off and say modern technology. So we could say that because of the development in technology, our lives are very different to what they were. We don't live traditional lives anymore. And even within a few generations, it's very different. So this is an argument that we could explore for agreeing that the traditional values of older people are not valid for younger people. What else could we talk about? We might talk about social issues. So we could talk about some recent changes around the world and in particular with traditional views. There are some things nowadays that we find quite normal, and we accept different types of lifestyles, whereas our grandparents perhaps wouldn't understand that. So a good example is in Taiwan. Taiwan is the only Asian country that allows same-sex marriage, and that is something quite modern in Asia. So that's definitely a social issue that maybe some older traditional values would not agree with. So we could talk about that. What's another reason to agree? We could talk about the idea that, especially with work, in days gone by, people would have one main career. They might go and work in a factory and work there for the rest of their lives. Whereas nowadays, people have many different jobs and they don't necessarily stick with the same career. So those values of working for the same company for many years, they may not be relevant to young people. This could be an argument for agreeing with the statement in the question. Now, if anyone's watching and they want to leave a comment, what could be another reason for agreeing? I'm going to leave that open and see if anyone jumps in. Okay. So let's put in a few ideas for disagreeing. So the idea that young people can still benefit from the traditional values of older people. So one idea could be, for example, life experience. So often traditional ideas come through many generations of life experience. We do things because it keeps us safe, or it makes society easier to survive in. So life experience, old people know what's going to happen, even though they went through the experience many years ago. So we could talk about life experience perhaps. We might talk about what could be another idea that we could say for disagreeing. Older people, how can older people help young people apart from life experience? What else could we say? Well, there's lots of things connected to life experience, I suppose. How about this? No regrets. So what do I mean by this? It's kind of similar to life experience, I suppose, but more the idea that young people, they will do things possibly because they want to rebel against the system, but later on in life they will regret what they did. Whereas an old person with traditional values could tell them not to do that, and so they wouldn't have the regrets. So that would help them in their future. What else could we say? Maybe a similar idea. Maybe that, you know, societies don't change very much. It takes a lot of time to change society. So by following traditional values, it might make it easier for people to get on. Another idea I just had was to do with culture. So the idea that if we don't follow the traditional values, perhaps we're going to lose our cultural traditions. Okay, so there's some ideas here that we can play around with. Of course, there are more that we can think of, and unfortunately, it looks like we don't have too many active people in the chat, so we're not really able to brainstorm together. So I will jump on to the next idea. So I'm just going to take one idea from each of these. I would like to do all of them. Let's do no regrets. I'd like to do them all, but yeah, unfortunately we don't have as much participation as I'd like. Okay, so we might come up with lots and lots of ideas, but what ideas do we pick to write about? Well, it's all to do with the idea that is easiest to develop. If you have a very interesting idea to write about, but you can't make any connections, then it's not a good idea for the IELTS. My camera's disappeared again. Okay, so let's think about this. So we want to expand this idea, modern technology. How does modern technology connect back to the idea that older traditional values don't help younger people in the future? So what we could talk about possibly is the idea that okay, how about this? So we could give the idea of Zoom. So let's say virtual conference, and the idea that when you have a Zoom meeting, sometimes you have to be direct to avoid miscommunication. Okay. Or you have to adapt to cultural differences. Okay. So what I mean by that, as an example, is if you live in a place, for example, like in Taiwan, where sometimes they don't like to lose face, or they don't like to be disrespectful. And in traditional meetings with other people from your nation, that's okay. Everybody knows the rules. But when you work in a business and you have to have virtual conferences with people from other cultures, if you're not direct, people might misunderstand you. If you don't adapt to the culture that you're talking about or talking to, again, you may not do very well in business. So those traditional values would not work with modern technology for the future career. So that is perhaps a way to expand that idea. No regrets. I think this is a little bit easier for me because it's a little bit more logical. So the idea here is that older people, they've been there and done that, and they've got the t-shirt. So they can explain through their own life experience or through common wisdom that if you do something, for example, let's say what's something that an older person wouldn't do because they would have regrets. Okay, for example, we might say not going to university, for example, because some people choose not to go to university, they prefer to work or to travel, and then later in life they realize that they have fewer job prospects. So this is something that perhaps someone with a traditional value system where they know that education is key, they would say, of course you need to go to university. Okay, so this is what I mean by trying to think of specific examples and how to develop it before you choose the idea, because sometimes it might be a very interesting idea, but if you don't have any good detailed specific ideas to back it up, it's not good for the IELTS. Okay, so if we move on to choosing the opinion, so after we do all this in the planning, remember, choose the essay that is the easiest to write, not the one you personally believe in. It's all about developing the easiest ideas for you to write, not what you actually think. And choose the ideas which you can explain the best, not the most interesting ones. And never start writing until you know what you're going to say. Okay, so I did plan, because I hoped that we would have a few more people in the chat. We were going to do some writing together, but that looks like it's not going to happen in this video. Never mind. So what we'll do is we'll push on, and we will quickly go through the model answer, and yeah. Okay, so let's look at the model answer just to give you some ideas. How could you phrase this? Some sentences that you could steal. Okay. So traditional ideas from older people about the way to live and behave are not helpful to young people and their futures. Okay. To what extent do you agree or disagree? So this is what I wrote. Let's see how close I was. The tenets that senior citizens hold dear are argued not to be in line with the modern lives of many youths. I personally disagree with this statement and feel millennials can learn a lot from baby boomers. Okay, so let's just match up a few phrases. The tenets someone holds dear. It's a good collocation. It means the values that they hold dear. Not to be in line with something means it doesn't. Let's change that color to something else. It doesn't match up with. It doesn't. It's not really connected to what young people need in their lives. Okay. Some good high level vocabulary. Millennials, and a good kind of logical collocation is baby boomers. So millennials are people like myself who were born from 1985 to about 2000. Baby boomers were people that were born just after the Second World War, like my father. He was born in 1945. So that's a kind of a nice logical connection using the right vocabulary. And baby boomers, obviously older people. Okay. The main reason I believe that teenagers can find value in the values of their elders is that life doesn't change that much, and the latter's life experience can come in handy. By this I mean many of the trials and tribulations a young person faces in their life are exactly the same issues faced by previous generations. This is certainly true of key components of the human condition, namely love, work and ambition. Despite the modern twist, the wisdom handed down through the ages is still relevant in my opinion. Okay. Hi Naz, you joined us, how are you? Great. So here, just a few things. So something interesting that I did here. So can find value in the values. So it looks almost like I'm repeating the same word, but to find value is a different use of the word of value. So values and to find value. So values are ideas that you have, and find value is to find it beneficial. Yeah, so that's quite a nice one. Now here, this word is very important. Elders. Now I find that my students in Taiwan use this word incorrectly all of the time. Elders, as it's used here, means older people, people older than you, elders. A bit like the expression my elder brother or my older brother, my elder brother. Elders, it doesn't mean old people all the time. In fact, when you refer to the elders in society, it often refers to like a tribal group of people, and the elders are almost like the government. If you imagine like I don't know, a tribe in Africa, the elders are the people that tell the other villagers what to do. Elders doesn't mean old people. Elder can mean older, or elders can mean like a tribal government type group. It's a tricky word to use right, but I've used it correctly here. They're elders, the people that are older than them. Okay. Another good phrase, the trials and tribulations. This just means the difficult things that we have in life. The trials and tribulations is a good one. Yeah. What else? Key components, so important parts of the human condition. The human condition just means being alive. It's a fancy way of saying people being alive. Okay. Another good phrase, the modern twist, as in the modern take on things, just this part thing. So some good phrases in here. An additional reason from my point of view is the fact that a refusal to listen to tried and tested moral codes can lead to severe regrets. To expand on this further, many young people who rebel against conventional values later find out that they deeply regret their actions. A good example of this is my brother, who found it hard to fit into society as an adolescent, and now is very conservative in his world views. Even though he was given good and relevant advice by older relatives, he chose to disregard it and now has a checkered past. Okay, so here again, in terms of structure, I'm making it very easy to follow through with words like an additional reason. And some good vocabulary. Tried and tested means that it works. It's worked for a long time. Moral codes. This is a good one. Oh no, don't want to change the color of the text. I just want to change the background of the text. Yeah, so this is a good one. I'm using lots of synonyms of traditional values here. Moral codes, conventional values. This is another good one here. Conservative in his world views. This is another synonym for traditional values. So I'm using a lot of this. And a checkered past. this is a good high level phrase. A checkered past, meaning perhaps committed a crime, perhaps wasn't very successful in life. Now, the interesting thing is I gave an example from my own life experience. I spoke about my brother, but this is not true. But it's only partly true. My brother doesn't really have a checkered past. He didn't rebel that much against society. He isn't that conservative either. But it doesn't matter if it's not true. It fits in here. It's a good example. So remember, you don't always have to write about the truth. Okay. And finally, in conclusion, I strongly believe that the traditional approach many older people have can in fact assist younger members of society, as all human experiences are similar. Nevertheless, teenagers are doomed to seek chaos before they achieve clarity through bitter experience. So the good thing I did here was I rephrased, wrong color, I rephrased my opinion. My opinion being that I don't agree with the statement. So I restated my opinion, and as I said I would, I finished with an interesting thought. Nevertheless, teenagers are doomed to seek chaos before they achieve clarity through bitter experience. Now, I have to admit, this is me being very poetic with my writing, which obviously I can do because I'm a native speaker. But a few things that I did do here, which are a little bit fancy. So I used the word chaos. In particular, it starts with a C. Chaos as in nothing, nothing has rules, nothing's ordered. And I then used the word clarity as in to understand things clearly. And I chose it because C and C. It's what we call alliteration. It's when you rhyme things or say things, words with the same letter that starts, a C in this case. So this was me being quite poetic, but I did it because if we go back to the plan, consider ending on a interesting thought. So I'm going to change that color to purple in case anyone catches this later, and it will make a lot more sense. So this is my interesting thought to end on, which is just a nice way to end this kind of essay. But in reality, I've done everything I needed to do in this sentence by restating my opinion. Okay, so that is my model answer for this. So it looks like, Naz, it might just be you and me in the chat. So if you've got any questions, this is a perfect time to ask. So any questions before we end? So the idea is that in the coming weeks, the more and more people we have, the more interactive these live streams will become. So a lot of the things I plan to do today, they don't work as well when it's just me talking. But that's fine. We're just starting this. Not many people know that we're going live every day. But yeah, so if there are any questions, feel free to ask them. So we've got a few interesting things coming up. Don't forget, you can go to the IELTSGrind.com, our website, click on live stream schedule, and if you scroll down, you'll find our schedule. So what we've got is So coming up tomorrow on Thursday the 10th, Michael's going to be looking at task 1 that a student has submitted. I don't know, is it Naz, did you actually submit an essay recently? I'm not sure if your YouTube name is the same as your email address, but we will be looking at tomorrow is it should be a bar chart and table correction, and then on Friday I will be correcting a task 2 essay, and then Saturday we don't have a live stream. We've moved that to Sunday because Michael's actually teaching that time. We're not able to do it, and Saturday's my day. I'm also teaching actually. Yes, this Saturday. My students are having a mock exam, so I'll be giving them a full IELTS exam all in the same day. So that's what I'm doing. That's why there's no lesson on Saturday. Yeah. So we've got lots and lots of things coming up. So don't hesitate to join us for another lesson. But if there's no questions, then maybe it's time to call it a night. Okay, so you can access the document today by going to the description of this video. There's lots of other things you can find in there. And thank you for joining me, those that did. If you find this a useful video, don't forget to give it a like. Oh, my looks like my camera's going a bit crazy. Okay, so that's me done for today, and I will see you guys again on Friday. Thanks for joining me.